Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. Welcome to Love Bay Afrobeat Talk and Music Radio. And you're in the best hour of sports on talk radio. It's the England Roger Sports Hour with our special guest host, Monali Patel. And we have so much to talk about, Monali. So much is going on in the sporting world today.
There's a lot that's happened in this last week.
So much. We're going to start off on a sad note. Breaking news this morning. George Foreman, the boxing great, rumbling the drum with Muhammad Ali, still one of the greatest fights from the 70s, still one of the greatest fights in the world today. And they even made a movie over it, but he passed away. So very, very sad news. Condolences to his family and his millions and millions of fans and friends that he has out there. And he really brought a lot to the sport, don't you think?
Yeah, he did. I mean, and to think that he won two major titles 21 years apart,
Yeah, yeah.
pretty impressive.
He is very, very impressive. A big guy, and I mean, I will admit I was a baby then, but I mean, when I saw him come out and he was just knocking people out, just knocking people out, it was a joy to watch, I must say. But yeah, he's gone, but he left a big mark on the world. I can tell
Mhm.
you that. That is for sure. We have other things to talk about today, though. Is there any sports you want to kick off with?
Whatever you like. There's a
Well,
lot to talk about today.
lot to talk about, I know. Let's quickly speak to tennis for a second here because Novak Djokovic, who started a Professional Tennis Players Association, like a
Mhm.
union, he's now saying he's not in full agreement with them because they filed a lawsuit against the ATP and the WTA tours, saying that the amount of games that they're playing is not sustainable. They get invasive searches of personal devices. I guess they're looking for drugs. They don't like the ranking system. They don't like the control they have over their image rights. They don't like the money. There's just so much things that they're complaining about. So I don't know. I think tennis is doing well. I'm not sure why they would come up with something like this at this point in time because this is just going to disrupt the whole thing.
I think a lot of sports in the forefront might look like they're doing very well, but sometimes we don't know what's happening in the background.
That is so true. That is
And
very true.
especially if this is coming from someone, with the reputation of Djokovic, and he started this whole players group to help support the players. If they're
Yes.
And these are some serious allegations that are being thrown around, aren't they?
Oh, for
And it's
sure.
not one or two things. They've got a lot of issues. Some of the ones that really stand out to me are the fact that they're getting calls and being pressured into things that they don't want to, and they're being threatened with money or whatever it is.
Yes.
Some of these are very serious allegations. And while the image of tennis might be what it is in the public, we really don't know what happens in the background.
Exactly. And a lot of bad things happen in the background, I must say, but
Mhm.
a lot of things do happen in the background. So I don't know. I think we just have to sort of watch that one because it could get nasty out there. And you don't want that for a sport
Well,
that is
the
doing
good
so well.
thing for the players, I suppose, is they tend to have a lot of financial backing to be able to hold them strong through this. And if it involves lawyers and whatnot, they can support it. A lot of times, a lot of athletes don't have the financial ability to fight a lot of these cases. So,
In most sports, they don't have that, I
mhm,
must admit.
yeah.
You just get what they give you and sort of live with it and grumble behind the scenes. But
Mhm.
this one has money to keep it as a fight.
Yeah, but it could end careers, right? And that's the issue. If you don't
Exactly.
get the right support and if you don't have the right representation, some of
Mhm.
these bodies are corrupt enough to take away careers from players.
That's so true. That is so true. Interesting. We'll see how that one goes. Another thing that happened this week was IOC, International Olympic Committee. They had a new president.
They
Thomas
do.
Bach was there for 12 years. I mean, that's the limit he can go. So he had to give it over. And shocking, maybe, surprising, maybe, expected, maybe. I'm not sure. There's a lot of things coming out of this one, but it's Kirsty Coventry coming to us out of Zimbabwe.
Yeah. I mean, as a former athlete, a female former athlete, it makes me very happy to see a female in the position. It's the first time the IOC's ever elected
A
a
woman.
woman
Yeah.
a woman for president, and she has the experience coming into it. You know,
Yes.
she's been the sports minister in Zimbabwe for multiple years. She's an Olympic medalist,
Twice
um,
gold medalist.
twice exactly. So
Yeah.
she certainly has the background to come into it. And when we talk about breaking barriers and women's empowerment, this is what it looks like. This is one of the, if not the largest
It,
sporting organization in
it's
the
the whole
world.
world, right? So yeah,
Exactly. Right.
everybody's
So
wants to go to the Olympics. Every country wants to go to the
every
Olympics.
athlete wants to be in the Olympics. I mean,
Exactly.
that is the highest form of competition there is,
Yes.
and to be president of that is pretty incredible. I actually was reading up on her a little bit today, and it's funny how the media will always try and find something negative
I know.
at all times instead of just appreciating the fact that this woman's put in years and years into sport and sport development, and
Yes.
she might be deserving of this position. And one of the things that really stands out for me in terms of her um, support towards female athletes is that she is, and again, I might not be a favorite with this opinion, but she's planning on putting a blanket ban on transgender athletes in female sports.
Sports.
So, it's not that she's saying no transgender athletes, she's just saying no transgender athletes in female sports to support the rights of female athletes.
Correct.
And I think that's a really important thing for females because
It is.
it's taken women ages to get some of the recognition, some of the opportunities that they now have. It's taken years and years and generations of women to get us to the point that we are now at, and it's important to protect that for the women.
Very important. Very important. And you know what? I agree with you on this one. I think she's doing what is right. So I was definitely a supporter on that. But what do you say to the talk behind the scenes that she was sort of groomed by Thomas coming in? She was his pick. He didn't have a vote, but I will say I was a little surprised at the vote because she got 49 out of 90 something, which was, they didn't need a second round.
Yeah.
And they said coming in, she didn't present any plans really. Everybody else had to present something, she really didn't.
Yeah.
So some people are saying it looks like it was a setup. I mean, I know Sebastian Coe, who is in charge of World Athletics, was a big shot coming into this. Another Olympic athlete, a world record holder, all of that stuff. World athletes for many years now, and loved by so many. So Lord Sebastian Coe is. So many thought he would have done well, and he only got 8 votes. He didn't even finish second. So I don't know. Do you think it was some sort of setup, or that's just the media trying to find something to hold on to?
Honestly, we have no idea what happened behind the doors. We have no idea. We have no idea how the voting would have worked behind the scenes. At the end of the day, she might not have presented anything up front, but I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I think we've got to give people the benefit of the doubt and have them show what they can do once they're in position. And if she had come in with no background in sport, no background in all of this, then a lot of questions would be valid. But it's not like she's walking into it.
I know.
Completely unexperienced, right?
I totally agree. As you said, the media would find something to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit that, in my opinion, she wasn't the favorite coming in, but she won handsomely. So I'll give her credit for that. And everybody just needs to rally around her now.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, it's probably one of the biggest jobs in the world to have. So we just got to support her and make sure that she's successful, because if she's successful, everybody's going to be successful. So
and people need to understand. I mean, she's the president of the IOC, but it's a body. It's a governing body with multiple functioning pieces and multiple positions. Correct. And it's a team effort. It's not like she's the face of it and she's currently the president, but there's a lot more that happens behind the scenes, and she has a network of people that are supposed to be there to make this happen.
And she does. What do you think, though? I think now like Canada has to take on the US in policies and trade and all of that. She's going to have to probably talk to the US as well, because a lot of people are worried that the next Olympics, 2028, what about those countries that have problems getting visas to the States? And that list is getting bigger and bigger every day.
Yeah.
I could use South Africa as an example, where I think there's some talk nowadays about So, and South Africa not coming to the Olympics would be a huge, huge, huge thing. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts that for the next Olympics, that trade and tariffs and all of these different policies coming to the US may impact who can go to the Olympics?
We have to worry about politics and sport. I didn't think we'd have to worry about politics outside the sport impacting sport. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out because Donald Trump is dead set on his immigration policies.
He is.
He is also very. I don't have the right words for this show. So I'm going to choose my words very wisely here. But he's a man who believes in what he believes in.
Yes.
And he will sign as many executive orders as he needs to get his way.
Correct.
I don't agree with most of them. From a political standpoint, as a Canadian, I've got a lot of issues with what he's been coming out with. But from a standpoint of sports, I think it's going to be very interesting because it's the Olympics. We have countries that he obviously has a lot of issues with. I mean, he has issues with everyone if you think about it, but that's besides the point. I don't know how the visa issuing is going to work for this.
And even the motivation for the fans. I mean, as a fan, are the Canadians going to go to the US to watch the Olympics because it's in the US? I mean, that shouldn't be an issue before, but who knows?
Well, already Canadians have slowed down their travel to the US and by a big margin, right? So I think a lot of questions need to be asked about this Olympics. Maybe do it now. You're still about 3 years away. I mean, we're talking the Olympics, which is still a while away, but we're forgetting that Major League's going to happen in a few months.
Correct.
And Major League brings in athletes or cricketers from all over the world.
Correct.
And so these cricketers need visas. How is it going to work for them?
And the World Cup is next year as well in the US, Mexico, and Canada. And it's got to be the same. I don't know. Very interesting times, I must say. Politics right in the smack in the middle of sports.
A different type of politics this time.
Politics, you know it. But as I mentioned, the World Cup. I don't know what your thoughts are that Toronto is thinking about scalping. Is it scalping? I don't know. I like to use the word, but they're saying they're going to buy all these tickets and resell them at a profit. Are you in agreement with that? Some people are saying it's scalping. Some people are saying it's the best way to make money. I don't know what your thoughts are. Is it the way to go?
It's not fair to the consumer, but you need money to make things function. We spoke about money so much on the last episode. I know. And at the end of the day, they're going to need this money, aren't they? So
they are going to need the money.
Get your tickets early.
Well, probably that's the best way to look at it. Wow. But I was surprised that they came up with that approach. I was like, I didn't know a public entity could go about it like that. But you know what? They can. And I think they will. And I probably agree with you that they probably should. Because they can certainly make a lot of money from that. So
because it's a lot of money to prepare for an event like this too, right? Yes. I mean, it's a big investment.
It's millions. So, and it's next year. It's not too far away. Yeah. So if they need money, they're going to have to start moving quickly.
Yeah.
Talking about soccer, though, in the Nations League, and there's the Nation Leagues going on and the Gold Cup qualifiers. But in the Nation League, it was Canada versus Mexico in the semifinal, and Mexico won 2-0. So there was a lot of hopes that Canada would finally break through and get to that final, but they just couldn't find a way to do it. And in the other game, the big favorite, the USA, with their brand new coach, Pochettino, they lost to Panama. So both Canada and the US got knocked out in the semis, and it's going to be a Panama-Mexico final. So I guess a lot of Spanish will be there. But I mean, it should be really interesting to see Canada and the US actually playing for third, while the big game is going to be Mexico versus Panama. I don't know what you didn't see any of those games, I would assume. It's hard to find on TV these days, but interesting results though. When you think about it, as someone said, politics and sports again, all four countries are in this big conversation these days, whether it's the Panama Canal, whether it's the tariffs, and all four of them are there. And at the end of the day, the big two, sort of went down. So
Yeah.
interesting times, but it was really, really good. The games were really good. They were really tight. And sorry for the USA. I think they had big hopes, but Panama found a way. So kudos to the underdog, finding a way to win.
Do you, I mean, the South American countries have always had a really long, rich soccer history,
They do.
and North American countries are still kind of lagging behind. Eh, you've mentioned a new coach. At what point do you see this turning for Canada, for US?
So Canada is turning because they've moved from like 70 something ranking in the world to in the 30s. They're in the right direction. So they were sort of expected to win against Mexico. I'm not sure what happened, why they didn't. Well, they had a couple of injuries there, but they just couldn't put it through.
Yeah.
USA is also very highly ranked, but they have not played well for the last few years. And I think they're ready to turn it around to say they're big nations in soccer now, and there was talk about how big they're going to be. But for some reason, as they get to that point where they're going to break into the top leagues, they stumble.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they went for Pochettino, who's one of the big coaches. He coached at PSG and Tottenham Hotspurs.
Yeah.
So he's known, and they expect so much from him, and he couldn't turn it around. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens because they also have the Gold Cup coming up. But from a Nations League's point of view, he didn't do as well, and it may spur both Canada and the US on to do better in the Gold Cup. It's definitely interesting to see how the next steps are going to be, though. But
yeah, we'll just have to see how it plays out, I suppose.
yes. But talking about the Gold Cup, because Jamaica was playing St. Vincent, and it was a expectation that Jamaica would overrun them. Jamaica is ranked 73rd. St. Vincent ranked 173rd. But Jamaica couldn't find a way to win that game. Actually, St. Vincent was leading 1-0 in extra time, added on time, and Jamaica scored in the 7th minute of added on time through a penalty to tie the game. So it was a shocking result, but at the end of the day, St. Vincent put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting to see. I mean, to get to the Gold Cup, whoever wins is at home and away. So they expect Jamaica should win the next game in Jamaica. But at the end of the day, everybody's stepping up. And as I mentioned, like maybe the US and Canada, they step up and they get to that point where they get stuck. But a lot is expected of Jamaica. St. Vincent is an up-and-coming team. So it was good to see the game and good to see that football in general is playing so much more in the CONCACAF. Canada is playing well, USA well, Jamaica well. You have Cuba, you got Haiti, you got Honduras. Everybody's stepping up their game. Panama. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting now, I must say. Soccer is getting really, really nice. Soccer is getting really, really good. And yeah, we have lots of opportunity to watch soccer.
Well, it's really impressive to see just how many games get played, isn't it, for all of these nations?
Almost every day you see a game going.
Yeah. A big contrast from what we see in cricket.
There you go. And that was the difference before. Before, you couldn't find a soccer game in the CONCACAF region. Yeah. Very few.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot. So there's a lot that probably cricket could pick up from what's going on with soccer because there's been a change and everybody's growing, everybody's motivated, and most people are doing well. So I tell you.
And it's not just the men's, but it's the women's as well.
The women's coming on as well.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. Yeah. So I love what's going on. I think there's going to be a new soccer league in North America for women, which is good. Yeah. And as I said, expansion is always good.
Yeah.
Always good.
Absolutely.
All right. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about a little before we get to cricket? Lovely cricket?
World Indoor Track, maybe?
World Indoor Track, maybe. So Canada's Sarah Mitten out of Nova Scotia, she retained her title. So she's doing so well. She won the shot put, didn't do a personal best, but pretty close to her personal best. And she won again. So congratulations to Canada. They're on the medal podium at the top. They're on the medal tables. So far, only one, but they're looking really good there. Jamaica actually got a medal. Raymond Richards in the high jump.
Yeah.
He jumped 2.28 meters, and he was shocked. He said he didn't expect anything, and now he's a medalist. So kudos to him. But it's going on. Even today, I mean, it's going on right now, and they're finishing up for today's events. But interesting races are there. It's a little low-key in terms of the big stars. They're not truly there. So the winners are not going to be household names, but pretty interesting. Some big names are there, and we're going to see some big results coming up. This young kid out of Great Britain, Jeremy Azu, he won the 60 meter for men, and people say, "Who's Azu? I don't know that guy." But he beat somebody that everybody knows, that kind of same being from South Africa, who is
Mhm.
running indoors not a lot. So because South Africa is like West Indies, right? It's always hot, so you don't have a lot of indoor.
Yeah.
And he was there, and he was third. So pretty interesting names out there, but none of the real big names out there. So it's a little low key, but it's
Yeah.
happening over there in Nanjing, China, and some very interesting races. But it was good to see Canada at least getting one for now, one medal, and we hope they can get some more as they move along. Should be pretty interesting.
Yes.
Okay, one more thing I wanted to talk about. I don't know what your thoughts are going to be on this one, but the Boston Celtics, they sold for $6 billion. I mean, what is going on? I mean, they said it's the biggest sale ever, it's the richest ever. I don't know. What is sports team worth that much? In your opinion? I mean, 6 billion is a lot of money.
Billion.
Yes, billion.
Um,
That's
People
a
who
lot of money.
invest in this obviously see returns, and it's usually the big guys. They wouldn't get into something if there wasn't a return.
For sure, for sure. And it's some
A
venture
lot of money,
capitalists.
though.
It's some group of venture
Yeah.
capitalists that did it. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. They're in it for the money. And I'd say they will make a lot of money because it's a storied franchise.
Yeah.
From the 80s all the way till now. Everybody always talk about the Boston Celtics. They have a built-in crowd. They have a lot going for them, but also they're champions as well, right? So you
Yeah.
can't ask for anything more. You got a story behind them. They're current champions, and they look like they could be champions against this year. So I guess get well or get it is good. But $6 billion for a team is like, wow, what world are we living in today?
It's just a bit of change for some of these guys,
Some chump change for some of us. Some of us. Okay, so can we move over to cricket, lovely cricket?
Absolutely. But your friend Lewis Hamilton was in the news.
Yeah, you know what? He has never, well, not never, only once before has he been on the podium, on the pole for the sprint race. He has his brand new car, and I tell you, it was a shocker even to himself, it looks like, that he was number one. New car, he's just getting adjusted to it. Last week he didn't do so well. Suddenly
Last week you were asking me if he should retire.
No, exactly. And now he's on the pole. So I'm so happy for him. I think if he can win that sprint today and then come for the race tomorrow, it'll be fascinating to see. But to see him come from where he is and answer a lot of questions, because people are questioning how good is he, should he retire, all of that stuff. But it shows he's exactly where he should be, right at the pole, because he's the best driver out there. He just needs to show that he can win with the car that he has, and not going to be easy, but give him a shot. I think he can do it.
Yeah.
I think he can do it. Yeah, but that's a good one because I always look forward to see just how well is he going to do. As you know, he's my guy, so I want to see how well he does. But I tell you, man, I was a little surprised myself that he's on the pole already. On the pole already, because usually it takes a little while to get used to a new car.
Yeah.
But no, he's there, ready to go.
Yeah. Well, he said he felt really calm too that morning, didn't he, before he got out there. Sometimes, we've spoken about this last week with the whole mental aspect and just being prepared.
Yes.
And being in the zone.
And that I will say he is good at. When he's locked in, he is without a doubt in my mind the best out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he has to be locked in and confident in his team and confident in his car.
Yeah.
And I think he's still learning his team and his car. But I mean, if he's already on the pole, then who knows? The sky's the limit, I must say. So, yeah, but that was interesting for me to notice as well. It was exciting for me because me and my friends, we talk about it all the time. Is he back? Is he back? I know he's coming back, but is he back yet?
So, you've got to give him a fair chance after all these years.
That's for sure. That is for sure. And I think he's going to make us happy this year. He's going to win more than one.
Don't jinx it. Don't.
That is true. Don't say too much. But I think he's going to do really well this year. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Anything else you had on your agenda to talk about?
Let's jump into cricket.
Cricket. Where do you want to start? At IPL? I mean, it kicks off now.
Yeah, the opening ceremony finished and the first game is on.
How are you
Knight Riders
feeling? Are
taking
you
on.
bouncing off the walls like everybody else, or?
Not quite. No. I mean, I'm not. I watch the IPL here and there, but I'm not really.
Huge IPL fan. Not so
I would
much.
rather be following the New Zealand series going on, or Canada, who's taking a hammering today and is going to hope that this rain keeps falling.
Divine intervention, please. Divine intervention. That's what we really need over there in Namibia.
They need it. They were 19 for 6, and I think they're now 45 for 7. 42 for 7.
We're gonna get Ingle to put on his pads and get his bat.
That's right. You know what? He needs to get out there.
Yeah, I saw the results last week, and I'm like, man, I'm sure Manali's punching the wall right now and saying, "What is going on? What is going on?" Because you were fairly confident that they would find a way to win last week.
It came down to the wire, but you know what? It's been an interesting tour for them, hasn't it? There's been rain from the time that they left because they had a training tour in Zimbabwe.
Yes.
Didn't get a lot of games in because of the rain. Flew to Namibia, had a lot of rain over there as well. And mentally, it's very hard for cricketers to have the on and off the field and rain delays.
Correct.
And, you might check the weather the day before and think, oh, tomorrow's definitely going to be rained out. And then you get there and you're like, oh, wait, we're going to get a game in today.
I know,
and transitioning in your brain to being back on and active is not easy to do. The other thing that the Canadians are not used to doing is being on the road for this long. And they have been on the road for a while. So that takes adjustment. That takes a lot of mental strength, being away from family and your friends and your element at home. So it's a long tour between the training tour and Namibia to follow right after. And they've still got today's game. They've got one more game tomorrow.
I don't know. I think well, it's a big job for the managers to keep them motivated, to keep them and all of that. So unless they have a really strong support system over there, it's going to be extremely difficult for these inexperienced players in general to function very well. So it's tough though. It's tough. As I said, they needed the points. They really needed the points, and they couldn't.
They needed the points, and unfortunately, the 50 over just didn't go that way for them. Yeah. They've got a tour coming up at home.
Yes.
Which hopefully that'll help home ground advantage. They know the conditions best. King City is a very difficult place to play if you're not used to the conditions.
I noticed up there. I mean, it's a weird place for cricket. I don't know.
It's an interesting place for cricket, all right.
But I can understand why people play there. But no, I'm telling you, I was like, this is not a cricket ground. Definitely not a cricket ground.
Yeah, it's not your typical stadium, right? It's 5 cricket fields, but the wickets are not for everyone, and if you're not used to those conditions, you will struggle on them.
That is for sure.
Conditions to bat on.
That is for sure. But it's a big place, which I like, that part of it. But you're absolutely right. You got to know your environment to be successful there. It's going to be interesting to see. But when is that competition?
August, I want to say.
Okay.
I believe it's in August.
So they have time to come back and settle in.
What's that? Sorry?
They have a lot of time to come back and settle in before that starts.
I think they have. The Canadian summer is starting, so it's not really. Cricket's going to pick up for them a lot now because the local season starts. Yeah. Cricket Canada has just introduced the franchise T10 competition, Super 60.
Yeah.
So that's going to start ramping up for them. I'm not sure the dates have been announced for the Super 60 yet or not. GT20, they're looking for someone to take on the brand GT20 because it's owned by Cricket Canada.
Yeah. Okay.
So currently in talks with the owners of ILT20 and the owners of National Cricket League in the US. Yes. There will be a lot of cricket for our players this summer. And then
it's a good thing in some ways, but I mean, hopefully they stay fit and not get too tired.
That's it, isn't it? Just managing workload. But then I suppose the other issues are our summer is so short and you want to try and play as much cricket as you can. So it's a tricky one to balance sometimes.
That's a disadvantage of playing in the cold weather in North America.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have sunshine all year, it's different for them, but yeah, that's certainly tough. Wow. Definitely interesting to see how cricket is going to go this summer. But as you talk about loads and all of that, I saw an article where they're talking about well, we spoke about it briefly last week, but they went into a little detail about how much T20 is being played. Is it knocking out tests? They talked about, how many games you could have watched. BBL is here, then BPL, then SA20, then ILT20, and all
It's
these are
nonstop.
happening. It is non-stop.
It's
And
nonstop. Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. If they said if you were to look at it, it's like 280 games of cricket in like 2 months.
Hmm. Yeah.
It's like mentally, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
But they say something's got to give because you can't do all of that cricket and then suddenly you're going to turn around and play test cricket.
Yeah, I suppose the other thing is also the players, and this is my observation, and I'm not saying the IPL necessarily reflects this because there's a lot of money involved and these are big, high stakes franchise leagues. But you notice a lot of the smaller franchise leagues, the commitment from the players isn't quite the same.
Correct.
And you can see that on the field because you don't see that 100% effort.
Correct.
And a lot of times it's because they're protecting themselves for the next league that they're signed on and for the next league.
Correct.
And
they're pacing themselves.
But at the same time you can see it on the field that the quality of cricket isn't what you would expect it to be.
Correct. And I think the challenge, some people are saying with the amount of T20s and the amount of money they make, they should take its rightful place at the top of the game, spec in order. Like, this is what the game is now.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think the leagues that are there, it should be there to help cricket, to help a country to be better, become a better cricketing nation. But I think it's the opposite that's happening.
Well, yes and no, because if you look at the associates, T20 cricket's given them an opportunity to get to the top a lot faster than they would have with 50 over cricket. It's a shorter version of the game. It doesn't require the same mental or physical resilience to play 50 over cricket. Test cricket's out of the question at that level.
Yeah.
So I would say in terms of growing the sport of cricket, T20 cricket's worked very well. We have so many countries now playing the sport. We have so many countries that are either associate members or affiliate members under the ICC umbrella. And if we're trying to grow like soccer is, T20 cricket's definitely the way to go for that. But at the same time, I understand what you're saying for the teams that are the top, the test playing nations, the ODI, the ODI nations or the full members per se. It's challenging to see how they're going to manage their workload and their cricket load with all of the T20 cricket, because a lot of their players are playing in these franchise leagues.
They do. I mean, as I say, it's a big money making thing, and as we talked about last week, it's what life is about. But as we also said, I mean, T20 cricket though, is it really cricket?
I mean, I was never a T20 player. I was always a 50 over player. But I would have struggled in the T20 world today's day and age because I wasn't much of a T20 player. But that being said, you look at how coaching's changed now, and it's geared towards that style of cricket. Coaching's changed a lot in the sport.
Correct. What is there, it's what is growing the sport, is what is making people money. So I think we sort of have to embrace it without being overwhelmed by it or make it bigger than it actually is. But I think it works for everybody, as you said. People making money, people growing this, get an opportunity to grow. A lot of that is happening, but the purists will say it's taken away from what cricket should be, and it's not pure enough for cricket. But that is never going to go away as a conversation.
But if we look at getting to the Olympics and if we look at trying to globalize the sport, unfortunately, this is what it's got to look like.
Exactly.
And I still have conversations with people in Canada or in the US, and they'll say things like, "Oh, isn't that the sport that goes on for 5 days?
Exactly.
How do you guys have time for that?
It
goes on forever."
And I'm like,
but this is what I mean. This is what the understanding of the sport is still in a lot of these countries. And that's a bit shocking because I get a lot of North American sports are shorter.
Yes.
Right? They're made to entertain people in a short amount of time.
Yes.
And if cricket wants to get into these markets, it has to be the shorter format of the game. You're not going to be able to get the buy-in from a lot of the local crowds otherwise. Actually, I was really impressed with, when I was flying during the World Cup. I was flying from Dallas to Florida because we ran a couple of coaching courses in a high performance camp during that World Cup.
Yeah.
And they were a group of boys. They were part of the Navy or something like that.
Okay.
And they noticed that I had an ICC sweater on. And like, oh, isn't the Cricket World Cup going on? These are American boys, they
Wow.
they
Maybe
don't
what's going on?
actually, you don't expect them to know about the sport.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if you know of John Boy.
No.
John Boy does a lot of sports on YouTube. Like, he's got his own YouTube channel. He analyzes a lot of sports and discusses them. And he did a segment on the Maxwell innings during the World Cup, the game that they beat Afghanistan in.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's very popular in North America, or in the American culture. And these kids had watched that clip. And they had actually learned so much about cricket because they were hooked from that clip.
Wow.
And I was very impressed to see that they had taken an interest in the sport and that they'd actually wanted to get involved with the sport.
That's exciting to hear.
That's really, and that's what you want. You want to be able to have these,
to attract
these explosive games, and they're short enough that people can understand and dissect and be like, oh, I think I can follow this game. Cricket's not an easy game to explain to someone new.
It's not.
We all know that.
And then the names of the positions that the fielders are in, it's third man and short leg and what?
And then the question of what's the wicket? And I'm like, oh my gosh, well, we refer to the wicket as so many different things in cricket, between the playing surface and the three stumps and the person getting out.
I know. It's a lot to explain. But I was happy to hear, because in general, North America is taken on by immigrants coming in from cricket playing countries.
Yeah.
So to see people from these countries are now looking at it and getting more interested in it, that is really, really exciting to hear.
Yeah.
Really, really good to hear. I noticed something else which people probably ask questions if they're not into cricket. They came up and they said, you know what, you're now allowed to apply saliva on the ball in the IPL.
In the IPL.
Okay, non-cricketers are going to say, what?
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain, why are we applying saliva to the ball?
Yeah.
And does women's cricket do it?
What do you think of the IPL saying it's okay to go back to saliva?
You know what? I think it's part of the game. I think it helps. It helps the bowler. But yeah, I wouldn't say it doesn't seem like the most healthy thing to do, but it helps the bowler, and it's part of the game, I think, from when I used to watch as a kid.
I just find it, well, I suppose the IPL is the IPL, and the BCCI is the BCCI, but with the ICC saying no saliva for the last 2 years, and then now all of a sudden it's allowed at the IPL, it's an interesting call for me, because players are I think a lot of players might have even put it behind them to go back to saliva. And,
if that's what you see, that's what you grow up on, it's one thing. But if you haven't done it and never done it, I don't think you never start.
And a lot of them had to adjust really quickly after COVID. Did not put saliva on the ball. No saliva on that ball.
I thought, it's not a funny. I was like, what? They're changing it again, and you got to be a little worried, because whatever the IPL does, ICC does shortly after.
It's a trickle down rule, isn't it?
So, I don't know. I think it seems as it has a lot of support, though.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the IPL for sure. But they said it facilitates reverse swing. It does this and that for the bowlers. Yeah. It was hurting the bowlers. Do the women actually do it a lot as well, or no?
Yeah, well, they did before COVID. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's part of the game.
It's part of the game. Absolutely. It's part of the game. I actually played against a woman in Australia who actually just licked the ball. And I was shocked when I saw it. I was like, are you actually licking the ball? She's like, well, what difference does it make if I put the spit on using my finger or I just lick it? It's the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, but you put your tongue on it.
That is so funny. I don't know. See, if I'm batting and I see the bowler do that, I lost my concentration.
Well, that's exactly. It's a bit disgusting. It was very repulsive for me to watch. And then I was like, well,
Next ball they're out. I can't face this bowler. That is so funny. Well, we'll see. You'll see if it trickles down to the ICC. But I guess it's back after COVID is gone. Who knows? Maybe that's their logic behind it.
We'll just have to, yeah. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I have a
So
feeling the ICC might follow suit.
they usually do. They usually do. So I was watching some Jamaican TV recently, and one of my favorite cricketers, Jeffrey Dujon. I mean, I used to steal out of school just to go watch him bat when I was a little kid. He's come out now and said that he doesn't think that the 4-day competition that is playing in the Caribbean today does anything to develop Test cricketers. And he uses reference, Jamaica only made 44 against Guyana. I think Barbados, with all their big batting lineup, only made 86 against Trinidad. I don't know. You think he has a point, or you think he's just fishing for something?
I don't know if I really share that opinion with him, to be honest. I think the 4-day cricket format is there to help both batters and bowlers try and get adjusted to the longer version of the game. You're going to have games where just
Yeah,
doesn't,
but
things just don't go your way, and
yeah.
you'll see them wrap up quicker than you'd assume. But that's part of it, isn't it?
Yes.
The more you play these sort of formats, you might not see the odd 40, 50, 60 scores, because players are going to get more accustomed, or batters are going to get more accustomed to playing that sort of format. So I don't necessarily think I would agree with him on that. I think the 4-day format is a pretty decent one in comparing to Test cricket and in preparing for it.
Yeah.
And you can't pull out a couple of games here and there to make it meet your point when you've got you have plenty of other games that have
gone on big scores,
got big scores on them. Exactly. And I know we spoke about this in the last episode. A lot of Test cricket now finishes in 4 days.
In 4 days, yeah.
And you're still getting results. You're still seeing all 4 innings, and you're seeing results. So I don't necessarily agree with him at all on that.
Yeah. And I think Dr. Bennett, who is the president of cricket in Jamaica, he said the same, like you're saying. He didn't agree either.
Yeah.
I think part of Dujon's argument was, we have these CCC and the academy and all of that stuff. And, for me, it's an opportunity for the youngsters to grow and all of that. But he seemed to be saying that the teams are so watered down that it's not helping anybody. But I'm not sure where that came from, to tell the truth. I'm not sure where that was coming from. And as I said, I don't know who agrees with him, I must say.
I wouldn't agree with with him on that at all.
I agree. And he also had another comment, because he also said, part of the problem is the coaching. And he believes that the West Indies is the only place in the world that is a cricketing place that doesn't have coaching as a profession. I was a little taken aback by that. And I mean, maybe I don't know all the other countries, but I think it's cool to be a coach in Australia for sure, and in England and all of those places. But he says in the West Indies it's not a profession. And again, I'm not sure if I 100% agree with him, but looking over, I mean, I do say that there are some coaches, but I'm not sure if they think of themselves as West Indian coaches, because Gibson is in the IPL, and so they've never really coached a lot in the West Indies, but I'm not sure where that was coming from either.
I wonder if he's referring to the fact that the West Indies maybe doesn't have long-term contracts for some of the coaching staff. Maybe you could shed some more light into that, because when we look at the Australia, let's take Australia for an example, and the contract that Andrew McDonald has right now. Obviously, it's a long-term contract. We're not going to talk about everything that happened before he became coach, but I don't know if that's what he's referring to within the islands, whether there isn't, and I'm assuming that the islands have coaching staff and head coaches that are assigned.
They do. But he makes it sound as if it's not a formal thing. It's very loose.
Well, I can tell you
where people go and look forward to.
I could tell you it's not really a formal thing with some of the women's teams.
Okay.
From what I noticed at the Super 50, apart from a couple of coaches who are, who have been in the position for a while, I don't think that's quite the case.
Okay.
For the women, but I don't know if that is the case for the men.
Yeah, I'm not sure. As I said, that's another one I wasn't sure where that was coming from either. But I don't know. Maybe he's just trying to be controversial. I'm not sure.
But then maybe he does have a point, because you've got Courtney Walsh, who's worked internationally quite a bit. You've got Phil Simmons. Yeah, Phil Simmons, who's working internationally and has for many years.
Many years now. Yeah.
Gus Logie is another one. So, I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure either. I don't know. Maybe I know England, Lujan have good friendship, so maybe England could ask him when he's back, what is he thinking or what is his point? Because
Yeah,
I'm not 100% clear on that one. I
yeah.
must admit. So found it interesting though that he would publicly say that. You never know. You just never know
Never
these days.
know.
We're gonna take a quick look at the Breakthrough League, which I think you're very excited about. So they started naming their teams now, and I'm not sure what your thoughts are on some of these players that are in there.
Sorry, I missed that. Could you
The
repeat it,
Breakthrough,
please?
the Breakthrough League,
The
that is started,
Breakthrough League, yes.
and they started naming their teams.
I started
So,
naming their teams. I told you I was a big fan of them last of the whole
yes,
initiative last week. I don't really know how each team is going to end up playing, but
yeah,
the I'm happy to see the way they've picked the squads and the way they're sticking to their restrictions on age and the experience level and those limitations. So it starts soon, doesn't it? Next month.
next month. Yeah, yeah, in a few weeks from now. But yeah, it was interesting to
16th.
see. Oh, they're stick. You're right. It was good to see that the rules are very clear,
Yeah.
and I think that is
Well,
very important. So
I haven't actually looked at any of the squads as they've come out. I
other
haven't had the
squads.
chance to look at some of the squads
Okay,
that have
okay.
been announced yet, but I
But
did
you're in,
see that they're starting to announce some of those squads.
yes, yes. But you're in agreement with the restrictions and the age and all of that, though.
Yes, I am. I am. If especially if the whole point of it is to find new emerging talent.
Yes, yes. I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, you have the Jamaican Titans. It includes like Kirk McKenzie, who has played some cricket. The new kid Tamara Redwood, who is like 17. Barbados, they have Joshua Bishop in there. So yeah, some of the names of people you would expect to see are there. Some of them coming out of youth cricket, some of them coming from just being out and about and close to coming into the West Indies team. That is going to give them a good opportunity. So, so yeah, but some good names are there. Some good names are
Yeah,
there.
and there are 15 teenagers in this too, which is
Yes,
very
yes.
exciting.
Yeah, I'm happy to see like Django over there in the Trinidad team, because I want to see just how well he's going to do. Amir
Yeah.
Django, Joshua James as well. So yeah, some nice teams are there. And Casey Carty, though, I was a little surprised Jeremiah Lowy and Casey Carty are in there because Mikhail Lowy, I mean, sorry, because I thought they would be above this, but again, maybe it's good experience for them.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you because the whole idea was to try and keep it to players who haven't quite had the exposure at the highest level.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
Athanase is in
maybe
there.
it
Some
goes
are
back to
still.
what we spoke about with the mentorship.
That's what I was hopeful for. When I started, I was like, okay, that must be it. I mean, maybe they're molding them into becoming mentors, to becoming leaders. Kevin
Some
Sinclair
of
is
the
in there too,
leadership in
right?
the
It's like
squad.
Kevin Sinclair. What are you doing there?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I don't know.
I agree.
Certainly interesting for sure. But you know what? It's something to look forward to. Something to look forward to. And if you're 26 and younger, you only have three players between 27 and 29, then it's pretty good. The exposure that they're looking for, I think they're going to
Yeah,
find.
yeah. And then I fully see the vision that that they have with Cricket West Indies in this league because we have seen West Indies struggle a lot at the international level. And if this helps them scout and bring in some new talent and not just short term talent, but a bit of a development pathway for the next few years,
Then for sure, this is going to be good for cricket in West Indies. But I'm not sure how the selection works. Maybe it's a mystery to me. Can you shed some light on how the selection works in the West Indies these days?
I no comments. I don't really know how the men's selection works. I've seen some of it with the women's.
It's interesting to say the least.
But you know what? No one's ever going to be happy with selections, isn't it?
That is true, but I mean, you got to have a clear system, though.
Yeah, I agree. You need to have a system. Yeah, I fully agree with that.
And I just don't know exactly what is going on now. So if we're doing all these things, then you got to have something that is going to say, okay, this is how we identify the up and coming ones. This is how we're going to give them opportunities. So there's a pathway. I'm not sure if that is so. Right now, yeah, they're doing the right thing by giving them the opportunity to play the cricket. But if people are not there to select them and give them opportunities, then
Yeah.
where are we going?
And a fair, clear, visible pathway.
Pathway.
Yeah.
Pathway. So that's sort of what I've been looking for. I mean, I'm happy for the league, but yeah, you got to start from somewhere. But I think they need to take another step forward and not just where they are at today, but at least they started.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that
Open
one.
mind. Open mind.
You gotta keep that open mind all the time. So we're talking a little bit about England last week and what's going on with them in the women's cricket. I don't know. They went 0-16 over there in Australia. I mean, those numbers are. I don't even know how to explain those numbers.
Well, I think it's pretty clear of how to explain those numbers. It's a system that's fallen apart.
Not the coach.
The players are probably not the right ones based on selections. Again, I'm surprised it's taken this long for both John Lewis, the coach, and Heather Knight, the captain, to step down. But England has a lot of issues right now, both men and women, and I think their structure, their pathway needs some attention. Their women's program has gone from being a front runner and a leader globally to completely
0-16. It doesn't get worse than that.
Yeah, it cannot. But you can see that on the field. Fitness is definitely an issue with a lot of the girls. Fielding is an issue. We haven't seen England field like that in a very long time. It was horrendous, actually, during that 16-0 series. That the women's Ashes is a disaster when it came to taking catches. It's a lot of things that have been brewing for a while. You don't drop to this level that quickly. It's progress into. And I think maybe it's time that they look at all the players that are centrally contracted and whether they are the right ones to be centrally contracted.
Yeah, I agree. But I think for me personally, from where I'm sitting, I think women's cricket needs the big teams. I mean, the small teams needs to get there as well, but the big teams needs to be there.
Yeah.
And England dropping out of that just doesn't help the game, in my opinion. I think you need to have England
and that's just
there.
it. It's not that they have been beaten because a lot of countries have gotten better, which they have, don't get me wrong, but it's the fact that they've actually gotten worse with time.
And very quickly, as you said, they just went down, and it's like, okay, the sport is on its way up, and these guys who are supposed to be lifting the sport up is flying down to the bottom so quickly. And I don't know. Maybe we're gonna see more T20 leagues, and I see Stephanie Taylor going over to play for Oxford and all of that. So maybe got more opportunities and more cricket for them. But at the end of the day, I think you need the big teams with big players doing well. And I think it's bad for the sport right now for England to be this bad.
I think it goes back to not what we see on the field, but how the pathway is leading up for me. And again, England's always been, this is cricket, this is how you play it.
Yeah.
This is the technique. Test cricket is the purest form of cricket, which I agree with, a lot of that. But at the same time, for me, I think what they've not done is they've not kept up with cricket and what it's becoming. And that goes down to the coaching pathway for me, because I just feel like at some point they've become so stuck in their ways.
That
they haven't actually evolved fast enough, which countries like Australia have, New Zealand has,
Sure.
And you have to be able to evolve, and you have to be able to evolve with time and with the pace of the game, and at times ahead of the game.
There you go.
To stay in front of the curveball, which they haven't. And now they're seeing the challenges with both their men's team and their women's team.
Yeah. I don't know if they were taking it for granted. I don't know. I mean, they feel they're the home of cricket and all of that. But at the end of the day, I mean, both sides, men and women, have just headed downwards.
Yeah.
And it's like a spiral now. And it's not going to be easy to come back out of it unless they're going to spend the time and money to do it.
It's going to take a few years to fix, in my opinion. It is. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board, and they're going to have to.
Exactly. And the game is changing so fast that they're going to need a visionary to
Yeah.
take them on, to
Well,
lead them.
and it's interesting, isn't it, how their men's players oftentimes they'll register for the IPL and then they will say, "Oh no, I need to concentrate on why I'm struggling playing for England, so I'm
Yeah.
going to pull out of the IPL."
True.
And I mean, I suppose I don't understand that logic, because you pulling out of the IPL, unless you've got a serious plan that you're working on at home to fix your issues with your game playing for England, I don't,
Yeah.
whereas at the IPL you're getting exposure within your team and against players that you would normally be facing in the international circuit.
Exactly.
You're being challenged under those conditions. You're getting more exposure to the different sort of conditions. So maybe someone else can shed some light on that for me, because I don't know what the logic behind that is, and maybe I just don't know enough about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, I as I said, I see there way more positives than negatives, right? So an
Yeah.
opportunity like that, you should grab it with both hands and go. But
Yeah.
I do realize they pull out a lot, and I'm saying maybe it's workload. That is just my only suggestion, and maybe they're thinking workload and they have plans. And but at the end of the day, I don't think that's what it really is. I think there's something else going on that we can't figure out. That's the truth.
Yeah, they're going to have to get an internal review going, and they're going to have to do it quick, because they're slipping. They're slipping in those rankings, and they're sliding pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly. I think it's a good chance for the West Indies to beat them, so they should start playing them right now.
Hey, the West Indies have some hope.
There's a way up because they're coming down. We can pass them. They're
All
coming
they
down.
needed was someone to come down for them to squeeze up.
We can certainly look forward to that. But it's pretty interesting to see what is happening there. And I don't know, there's a lot of cricket in store for the West Indies this year as well. Over the summer, the men, the women.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think, do you agree that West Indies is going to have too much to do this year or no?
No, I mean, international calendars are busy, right? It's just part and
Very.
parcel of it. We got to be able to manage that, and you got to be able to keep up with it. That's just the reality of it.
Well, it means bigger squads, though. So I think that's where
Yeah.
like Sammy may
Yeah.
have the problem, because you have a lot of T20s, you have some ODIs, some tests.
Yeah. Yeah.
If the same guys are doing all three, then it's not going to happen. You're going to burn them out. So
And we see a lot of countries that are successful. They have different squads for each format.
they do.
Most, you might have your core players here
Yeah.
and there, but a lot of your squads are different. Australia has different squads for all three formats.
Yeah.
But then you look at a Bangladesh, for example, and it's almost the same players playing
All
all
three.
three formats, and then they suffer in all three formats.
Correct.
So, it's something that a lot of successful countries do, and it's something that they should look into.
Successful or the bigger, richer countries?
Let's put it as successful.
Oh, well, that's a wonderful note to end the show this week. But yeah, the successful countries. But yes, it was wonderful having you, Monali, cricket guru.
No.
We're talking, and a wonderful show, the best sports hour on radio. Love the Afrobeat Sports and Talk. Happy to have this show, and next week again, we'll go again, right?
I think Ingle's back for next week, but it's been fun.
Well,
It's been great.
let's do it all three of us, because we have so much to talk about. There's so much going on, so we'll make sure we have a lot of fun. But wonderful week, wonderful weekend. Enjoy. Get better. I see you sniffling there.
Yeah. 2 little kids were always sick.
I know. All right, thanks a lot, and we'll talk again.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Have a great week.
Have a great weekend.